All right, so we are now live on Facebook. Okay, so great to see everybody. Virtually, of course. We don't actually see you, but it's great to see you virtually. And today is a very, very special, tonight is a very, very special night. We actually enter in with what's called the Shloshet Yimei Hagbala, the 3 days of preparation before the giving of the Torah. On the year that the Torah was given, there was, sorry, you heard me twice. On the day the Torah was given, there was a 3-day preparation that happened before. God told the Jewish people, for 3 days, prepare and get ready. And so tonight really starts, we kick off that preparation. And so it's apropos that today we're going to talk about the holiday of Shavuot. Of course, I just want to make a very important mention of a very important day today, and that is Memorial Day. Today is Memorial Day, and of course we salute all of those in the armed forces and unfortunately all those who gave up their lives so that we can celebrate and have our freedoms. And as one of my friends who's in the armed forces, a classmate, posted, he said, more than saying Happy Memorial Day, we should say Happy Reflective Memorial Day. And so as we get ready for this holiday of Shavuot, we should reflect on this idea also that the sacrifices that people have made in order to enable us to celebrate this holiday in freedom. So without further ado, let's go on and talk about the holiday of Shavuot. So the holiday of Shavuot, as we mentioned last time, is not such a well-known holiday. And in fact, it's one of the least known holidays. Okay, Hanukkah has become almost one of the most popular. Everybody knows the high holidays. Passover, of course, people know. Purim, not as much, but Shavuot is also really, unfortunately, low down on the list. And last week we discussed a lot of the meaning of the holiday of Shavuot. You can look up that class either on Facebook or on the podcast Think Jewish. And last week we did a deep dive in the general meaning of the holiday of the giving of the Torah. This week we're going to do a deep dive in the actual holiday. In other words, a lot of the things we do on the holiday, as we call it, the laws, the customs, and many of the details and traditions. A very, very interesting holiday and how we celebrate it, especially considering it's a holiday which has no official commandment, no official special mitzvah. Passover, of course, we have the mitzvah of eating the matzah, the maror. Hanukkah, you have to light Hanukkah candles. Purim, we have a bunch of mitzvahs. You have to be happy. You have to read the Megillah. Sukkot, we sit in a sukkah. Shavuot doesn't have any official mitzvah. Its only mitzvah actually is to just not work, which is actually why the holiday of Shavuot has another name, which is called Atzeret. Atzeret actually means to hold back, because one of the main features of the holiday of Shavuot is we're holding back from working. Which brings me in to the first thing I wanted to mention today, and that is Shavuot is what we call a Yomtov. Anybody who works for an employer who's not Jewish knows that when you come to your employer every day, you tell them it's a holiday, right? Today's the holiday of Rosh Hashanah. I got to take off work. It's Shavuot. It's Yom Kippur. It's Sukkot. There's like, wow, there's so many holidays. What's with this? And in fact, that's because our holidays are not necessarily on a Saturday. Kind of in America, we're used to these holidays that are on specific days. So Thanksgiving is always a Thursday. Memorial Day is always a Monday. We have all these different days that are always on a day of the week. In Judaism, it's whatever day it falls out on. And so they are called Yom Tov. Yom Tov means a good day. So a holiday is also called Yom Tov, a good day. What that means is we're taking a regular day and we're making it into a holiday. Unlike Shabbat, Shabbat is inherently holy. Every seventh day of the week is inherently holy. Yom Tov means I've taken a Yom, a regular day, a Monday, a Tuesday, a Wednesday, or this year, Friday. I've taken a regular day and I made it a Yom Tov. I've made it into a good day, into a holy day. And so in Judaism, we have a couple Yom Tov, good days. There's Rosh Hashanah. You take a regular day of the week. It's not on a weekend. It could be on a weekend, but it's not on a weekend. We have Yom Kippur, although Yom Kippur is actually called the Sabbath of all Sabbaths. You have Sukkot, which is a Yomtov. Again, we don't work on the first 2 days and last 2 days of Sukkot. So again, it could be any day of the week. Passover, the first 2 days and last 2 days of Passover are called Yom Tov, also again a good day. And finally, we have, and of course, we have Shavuot. On Shavuot, 2 day holiday where we don't do any work. And again, it's called Yom Tov. It's a good day. It can be any day of the week. This year, it falls out on a Friday and Saturday. So Friday is a day we don't work. Now, important to note, although Yom Tov is similar to Shabbat, we're taking a regular day of the week and making it holy. There are a couple of rules in which it is more lenient, and that is on Yom Tov. I'm just going to say quickly, I'm not going to really get in depth. There's an entire depth to this. You can read entire books on the laws of Yom Tov, but simply put, on Yom Tov, there are 2 basic allowances. A, we're allowed to cook. So you're allowed to cook necessities for the laws of Yom Tov. Now, you're not allowed to turn on the oven for technical reasons, but you're allowed to cook on Yom Tov. You can have the oven on. There's Yom Tov mode, Shabbos mode, or if you have a gas oven, you can light it from a pre-existing flame. And also on Yom Tov, we can carry. But for the most part, the Yom Tov looks like Shabbat, except, again, with these 2 exceptions, pretty much cooking and carrying. There's a lot more details to that, but we're not going to go into that. This year, the Yom Tov of Shavuot, which I'm going to explain why it's called Shavuot and why it falls out on the day we're going to say it falls out on. This year, the Yom Tov of Shavuot falls out on Friday and Saturday. And like every Jewish holiday, the day starts by night. I know it sounds strange, but again, the day starts by night. So why is that? Because in the Torah, when the world was created, it says, Vayihi Era, Vayihi Boker, was evening, and it was morning the first day. It was evening, it was morning, it was the second day. So always night and then daytime. So, for example, this year, the holiday is Friday, Shabbat. Really, the holiday is Thursday night, and it starts Thursday night at 8:03 p.m. 8:03 p.m. is the candle lighting time. So the holiday of Shavuot falls on 8:03 p.m. on Thursday night, and then, of course, Friday and Shabbat. Interestingly enough, the holiday of Shavuot is unlike the other Jewish holidays that we have. The other Jewish holidays that we have a official day in the month. So Pesach is the 15th day of the month of the Hebrew month of Nisan. Sukkot is the 15th day of the Hebrew month of Tishrei. Rosh Hashanah is the first day of the Hebrew month of Tishrei. Shavuot actually does not say a set day. It has to be after 49 full weeks. So counting starting from the second day of Passover, 49 full weeks have to pass. And after that, on the 50th day is the holiday of Shavuot. Now, back in temple times, when the calendar wasn't set, actually the holiday of Shavuot would fall out on different days of the month. Nowadays that we have a set calendar, the holiday of Shavuot will always fall out on the 6th of Sivan, which is actually the day that the Torah was given. And Shavuot is therefore very much connected to the giving of the Torah. And the Torah was given in the year 2448 to creation. And we are now currently in the year 5780. So the math works out, 3,332 years ago, the Torah was given on the 6th of Sivan. Which actually brings us to the different names of Shavuot. So again, so far what we've gathered is that Torah tells us that we have to make a Yom Tov, a holiday, 49 days after the second day of Passover. What we also get from here is that nowadays that holiday will always fall out on the 6th day of Sivan, which is the day the Torah is given, which brings us to a couple names that is given to the holiday of Shavuot. One name for the holiday of Shavuot is, you guessed it, Shavuot. Shavuot means weeks. The holiday of Shavuot is celebrated 7 weeks from when we started counting. In other words, from the second day of Passover. So it's a full seven weeks, and therefore it's called the holiday of Shavuot. As the Torah says, Shiva Shavuot Tispar Lach, you shall count for you 7 weeks. So it is called Shavuot. That's one name of Shavuot. The other name of Shavuot is a very simple one, called Zman Matan Toratenu, the day our Torah was given. Because once again, nowadays Shavuot is always on the day the Torah was given, the 6th of Sivan. There's another name, it's called Chag HaBikurim, the holiday of the first fruits. The law is, if you live in the land of Israel, the first of your fruits, the first fruits that grow on your tree, you have to take them to Jerusalem and eat them in the Holy Temple on the holiday of Shavuot. Well, typically it would be brought on the holiday of Shavuot. You can bring it other times, but typically the holiday of Shavuot, because that is the time of year when fruits would get ripe. And that, which actually leads us to another name of Shavuot, which is called Chag HaKatzir, the holiday of the cutting. All the Jewish holidays, Sukkot, Pesach, and Shavuot, Passover and Sukkot, and Shavuot are all connected with the agriculture. And the holiday of Shavuot is a time of harvesting. And when they would harvest, they would also take their fruits and bring them to the holy city of Jerusalem, eat them there. And when they would get there, they would make a beautiful declaration, thanking God for the blessings, thanking God for being able to have all these fruits. So far, we've discussed that we have this beautiful holiday of Shavuot. It is a Yomtov, which means it takes a regular day, makes it a holiday. We discussed its different names, and that pretty much the most important point of Shavuot now is the fact that it commemorates the giving of the Torah, and why it has all these different names. Now, what is so special about the giving of the Torah? We discussed last time that it creates this beautiful relationship in which we can get the essence of God. Another important point and another great thing that Shavuot does for us, that the holiday Shavuot, when God gave us the Torah, God wasn't just giving us the 10 Commandments, he was giving us the Torah in general, but he was also giving us a special power, and that power was the ability to bring spirituality into this world. When you think about it, the idea that a physical object is holy is a little bit strange. The fact that a scroll with a few words written on it becomes holy is strange. The fact that an item can become holy to the point where we show it much respect, it's an interesting idea. And that only happened when the Torah was given at Mount Sinai. It was a special power that God had given to us, that we have the ability to bring spirituality within the physical objects of the world. Until then, it says, even though our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, kept many of the commandments, the spirituality did not permeate the physical object. And therefore, after you use the physical object, you were able to discard the object. Nowadays, though, that is not so. Now, bringing this all down to us, okay? So if we're saying Shavuot is the time the Torah is given, and it's such an important moment in history because God is now going to give us of his essence, and we also now have the ability to bring spirituality down here into this world. Well, Shavuot is not just a celebration of something that happened a long time ago, but as we know, every Jewish holiday, when we celebrate it, we say, Hayamim ha'ela nizkarim v'na'asim. These days are remembered and they are done, which means we are not just remembering what's happened, but also it happens over again. So whatever happened on Shavuot, it's happening again, but not only is it happening again, it's happening in a greater way. In other words, if the first Shavuot was amazing, this Shavuot is even better. What I'm trying to say is, it's not that, I wish I was at the original Shavuot. Actually, in Judaism, everything always is getting better and better. So in this case, if we're now 3,332 years down the line from the first giving of the Torah, then the giving of the Torah, the celebration of Shavuot this year, should be even greater than the original, because we're always going up. We're always getting better and better. And that should be in our personal life too. Every year we get older, it's not just we're getting creakier bones, but hopefully we're becoming better people. And as a nation, as a people, hopefully we're elevating and moving forward in this mission that God has given us. We cannot, God forbid, say that we're going backwards. If we're going backwards, then we're never going to reach the goal. And the goal is to refine and elevate this world. And that happens slowly but surely, each generation doing its part. And eventually, we will complete what God started. It says at Mount Sinai, God came down to the mountain of Sinai, he came down on the mountain. That means God came down to us. And it says he told Moshe to go up. And that's really what God is telling all of us, that from that point on, our purpose is to elevate the world. God came to us. He gave us the ability to elevate ourselves to him. And through all the generations, our job is to elevate everything, ourselves, our body, our spirit, the world around us. We are elevating everything around us to God. And once we do that with the entire world, then the Mashiach will come. Any questions here? If you're on Zoom, you can unmute yourself. I'm trying to look over here on Facebook. Any questions? Oh, I see some people are saying hello. Nice to see you all, Linda, Ann, Anita, Karen, Leah. Any questions here on Zoom or Facebook? Post now. Otherwise, I'll continue along with my monologue or tell you some jokes that aren't funny. But whichever way you want. All right. The holiday of Shavuot is also what is known as one of the Shalosh Regalim. The Shalosh Regalim is one of the 3 holidays where there was an obligation to go to the temple. The holiday of Pesach, Passover, Shavuot, this one, and Sukkot. Those were 3 holidays where we were supposed to go to the Holy Temple. And although today, unfortunately, we don't actually go to the Holy Temple, but we hope and pray that we will once again reach a day when we will be doing that. All right. Now, before we get a little deeper into some of the customs of Shavuot, and I'll give you a sneak peek, some of them include staying up all night, eating dairy, flowers, I wanted to discuss one general topic about Yomtov, and that is preparing for Yomtov. So we said Yomtov is like a Shabbat. And therefore, when we prepare for Yom, we have to prepare for a Yomtov. We have to, it's a holy day. And therefore, we have to make sure we're ready. So if Yom Tov this year starts Thursday night, we have to make sure we prepare. What does preparation mean? First of all, it means to clean your home. Make sure your home is nice and clean in honor of the holiday. Make sure you go shopping before the holiday. Make sure you have all that you need. Once the holiday starts, you cannot get anything else. As our sages aptly said, he who prepares before Shabbos shall eat on Shabbat. If you don't prepare before Shabbat, you have nothing. The same thing is on Yom Tov. If you don't go and buy it, you're not going to be able to get it. So some of the things that one should buy should include, of course, dairy dishes. If you need some dairy, of course, you can come to Chabad. We have the Shavuot to go packages, which we highly advise you sign up for, and get some cheesecakes, and get some baked ziti, get some, what else are we giving? Blintzes, and some stuff for the kids. And we actually have a whole booklet, which will help you through your 2 days of Shavuot. Literally
and
a day-to-day.
Blintzes. Pasta, cheesecake, and blintzes.
Cheesecake, pasta, and blintzes.
Blintzes,
yes. Okay, good. And of course, this beautiful holiday guide that you'll want to have. So again, make sure you come. If you're gluten-free or dairy-free, at least come for the guide or some of the other stuff. So what are some of the things we have to have on Yom Tov? Of course, we need to have wine, as we're going to discuss later. You need to make kiddush. Also, it's a mitzvah to have meat. We all know we eat a lot of dairy on Shavuot, but there's also a mitzvah to have meat. Another important thing is to get gifts for the family, make sure everybody is happy. So whether it's new clothing, new jewelry, something to make everybody happy for the holiday. Even though, in other words, although there's a mitzvah on Shabbat, to enjoy Shabbat, on Yom Tov, it's even more so. On Yom Tov, we really have to make sure we enjoy it. And so make sure to get something new for everybody in the house. Get sweets for the children, something good that they'll enjoy. Of course, you'll need some challah, some wine. And one important thing, you cannot enjoy when you know that others are in need. And so just as any holiday, it's important to give tzedakah to those who are in need. There are many worthy organizations out there. I can help you, or of course we can help you. Just let me know if you want to help support someone who needs some Yom Tov expenses. But once again, we cannot enjoy when we know that there are others that are in need. There's a story of Rabbi Chaim Halberstam of Tzanz, a very famous Hasidic Rebbe. He was actually the great-grandfather of my great-uncle who passed away recently. And he one time went to the synagogue, Era of Shavuot, and he prayed for a very long time. When he got back, there were some wealthy individuals in his home. And they thought, oh, he's going to tell them some deep insights about the holiday of Shavuot. And he said, listen, in my younger years, maybe I would try and show off, tell you some deep insights that I could tell you. But he says, now that I'm older, I have a different and simpler idea. I want you all to go home, bring me a lot of money so I can distribute it to people who need it. And that's what happened, you know? So with all our spiritual preparations, we should not forget about the people in need, because if we neglect the people in need, what type of holiday is that? Is that the holiday that God wants to see? No, spiritual as we can be, we have to make sure we always are out there and looking out for others. All right. So what are some of the specific customs for the holiday of Shavuot? One is, if I cough over Zoom, is it catchy? Okay. One is we decorate the synagogue with flowers and trees. Now, it's not everybody's custom. It's actually not Chabad custom, but it's many people's, or shall I say, not current Chabad custom. In the past, maybe. Why flowers? Well, one reason is it says that the Mount Sinai was a very bare mountain. It's in the Sinai desert, possibly. It was a very bare mountain. There was nothing that looked special about it. But before the giving of the Torah, God made it grow all these flowers, make it look really nice. And the second thing is, of course, flowers make us happy. And it reminds us of the happiness that we had at the giving of the Torah. And why trees? Trees is because it says that fruits of the tree are judged on the holiday of Shavuot. And so, as we saw earlier, you had to bring the first fruits to the temple because that's when we cut them off the tree. And so fruits are judged on the holiday of Shavuot. Now, what does it mean that fruits are judged on the holiday of Shavuot? It probably means they're judged based on our deeds. All right, any questions? Any questions? You can unmute yourself, or you can put a message in Facebook. If not, we shall continue with some of the other Shavuot topics. Okay. Something special this year to do Shavuot, which is something we do some Yomtov, some holidays, not all of them, is when a holiday falls out on Friday and Shabbat, there's a problem, a slight problem, and that is that although we're allowed to cook on Yomtov, right? We said earlier that although Yomtov, a holiday, is similar to Shabbat, however, we are allowed to cook on a Yomtov. There's a caveat. You can only cook what's necessary for that day, because we don't let you, cook Thursday night's dinner on Yom Tov, okay? So we allow you to cook on Yom Tov, but you're only allowed to cook for that day. Interestingly enough, in the diaspora, where on the holidays we celebrate 2 days, well, one day is biblical, one day is rabbinic, so again, you cannot cook one day to the next. Which brings us to when there's a Yom Tov and then a Shabbat following the Yom Tov. Now, if there's Shabbat following the Yom Tov, on Shabbat you cannot cook at all. So the only way to have fresh food for Shabbat is to cook on Yom Tov. So for example, this year Shavuot, Friday, Shabbat. The only way to have good food on Shabbat is to cook food on Friday. Now, cooking from Yom Tov, from a holiday to Shabbat, is technically allowed because Shabbat is even holier than Yom Tov. However, we don't want people to get confused. We don't want them to think, oh, I remember last year when it was Friday Shabbat, I cooked Friday for Shabbat. So maybe this year when Yom Tov is Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll cook on Wednesday for Thursday. They didn't want people to get confused. So what they said was, we'll give them a specific mitzvah. We'll give them something to do so they'll always remember that they should not be cooking from Yom Tov to a regular day. And that's what's called the Era of Topshilin. It is some cooked dishes, and it's in the prayer book. You basically take one baked item and one cooked item. So for example, you'll take a challah, you'll take an egg, or you take a challah, piece of gefilte fish, and you hold it up and you make a certain blessing. It's in the prayer book. And when you make that blessing, that allows you to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbat. So it's important to do. It's called Eruv Topshilin. Again, E-R-U-V, Eruv Topshilin, which means cooked, an Eruv of cooking. So you want to make sure you do that this year. If you don't know how to find that, will help you get it. One more important point about preparations for Yom Tov this year. Every year we prepare for Yom Tov, and it's an exciting time. It's always a time of camaraderie. We have lots of people coming over. We're going over to people's homes. And this year we may feel a little lax in getting ready for Yom Tov because it's a little, a little bit of a downer. We're not going to be with other people. And we have to remember that we're doing this for the honor of Yom Tov. We invite guests. That's part of the honor of Yom Tov. But even when we're not allowed to have guests, we should give Yom Tov its due honor. And so this year, try to show your joy and your happiness in keeping the holiday, even though, unfortunately, we will not be able to have our friends over. Of course, it's very difficult, but it's something we should do. I saw a lot of different people have different ideas how to include their friends on the holiday. Some put pictures of their friends all over. Some are, saying we're going to read something together, although not together, but at the same time. There's all different ways of connecting. Of course, I highly advise an Era of Yom Tov on Thursday, getting together on Zoom or something with all your friends and, bringing in the spirit, at least the spirit of the holiday. So far we discussed the holiday of Shavuot, what day it falls out on, commemorates the giving of the Torah, the different names for the holiday of Shavuot, either weeks or the first of the fruits or the cutting. We also discussed Yom Tov in general, how we're taking a regular weekday and turning it into a holiday. We discussed the special rules that are for Yom Tov. We discussed how you can cook from Yom Tov for Shabbat in this year. Which brings me to Yom Tov itself. Now let's discuss the holiday of Shavuot itself. What does the holiday of Shavuot look like? In other words, let's take it step by step, from beginning to end, with all the different things, right? So we already know you have to have flowers. We already know you have to have a meal. We already know you have to have dairy. But let's put it all together, what it's going to look like, and the meaning behind all these things that we're going to do. So the first thing we're going to do, of course, what do we do before any holiday? How do we begin? Any thoughts? No thoughts?
Kiddush.
Before Kiddush?
Arvit. I don't know.
Okay, before Arvit, possibly?
Clean our homes. Make sure our homes are clean.
Cook.
Huh?
Cook.
Okay, cook. I'm saying the first thing you do on Yom Tov.
Oh, on Yom
Light the
Tov.
candles. Light the candles.
Light the candles. Very good. Light the candles. Okay, I got the answer on Facebook. I got the answer on Zoom. Good. Light the candles. Yes. So that will be the first step of Yom Tov. The first thing you're going to do on Yom Tov. Once you light the candles, you actually usher in the holiday. What's interesting about Yom Tov is that technically you don't have to light the candles at the beginning of the holiday. And that's because on Yom Tov, you're allowed to light a fire. Now, you're not allowed to light a new fire, but you can light a flame from an existing flame. So, for example, if you have one of those 24-hour candles, you light that before Yom Tov, and then you can light your Yom Tov candles from it. You can light it even 2 hours after Yom Tov started. So that's a technicality. But it's a great thing to light candles at the beginning of Yom Tov. Why do we light candles for holidays? The reason we light candles on holidays is it increases our joy of the holiday. Everybody knows a candlelight dinner. There's nothing like a candlelight dinner. Back in the olden days, they didn't have any electricity. So really lighting the candles would make a really wonderful, good atmosphere. As we all know, in food, it's all about the presentation. So if you can't see your food very well, it doesn't taste as good. I remember, when I was, in school, they used to have these blind tests where you used to have to, cover your eyes and try and guess what food you were eating. And I can tell you, it never tastes as good when you don't see it. Anyways, by the way, if you're in a place where they don't let you light fire candles, it's best to have you can rely on electric candles, but it's best not to rely on just your lights in your room, but to rely on a actual separate candle. So it looks like you're lighting something special for the holiday. Of course, we did that last year when we were in the hospital for Shabbat when Ari was born. He was born on Friday night. And so we brought this little Shabbat candle and we lit it then. Oddly enough, just a funny story. This year on Pesach, we actually lit Hanukkah candles. What do I mean? Passover this year was in the beginning of the pandemic, and people were buying candles. I don't know why they thought candles were going to go out of style. So people were buying, I don't know why they thought, but electricity is going to be cut off because it's coronavirus. Anyways, people were buying candles. And so I put in an order, the grocery delivery to get candles, and we didn't get any candles. And of course, my beautiful son, Ari, had taken most of our candles earlier and thrown them all over the floor. So they were all chametz stick. So I didn't really have any kosher or Passover candles. They were all really dirty with pieces of bread on them and stuff. So this year I took out some little glass or little foil containers, put oil in them, put a wick and lit them. That's what we lit for the Yomtov candles on Pesach. So we had Hanukkah on Pesach. Anyways, just an interesting story. So we have to light Yomtov candles. By the way, on Fridays, we always on the calendar, the candle lighting time is 18 minutes before sundown. Of course, you can light your candles earlier than that, but not roughly before 1 hour and a quarter before that. Interestingly enough, in the city of Jerusalem, they always lighted their candles 40 minutes before sunset. Now, who has to light candles for Yom Tov? Everybody, anybody who lives in a home, whether men or women, although, of course, it is a special mitzvah for women, and so women should light the candles. Also, it says young girls should light candles from the age of 3. The custom was kind of lost. In pre-war Europe, that was pretty much the custom. All young girls would light the Shabbat candles. Unfortunately, during the war, there was a candle shortage and the custom was kind of lost. There were very few candles being lit. How many candles do you light? It's similar to Shabbat. Most people will, if you're married, you light 2 candles, and then you add 1 candle each for every single child. And some people have a custom, if you ever forget to light a Shabbat candle, you add another candle, so then you can really have lots of candles. Okay, yes. Important this year, of course, to light one of those 24-hour candles, because that will enable you to light your Yom Tov candles, your Shabbat candles on Friday night. So again, make sure you have a 24-hour candle so you can light your candles on Friday nights. Now, I'm going to tell you something now. It's not fun. It's not exciting. It's just the law. So usually every Friday at the Chabad, when we have a minyan, typically we would bring in Shabbat early. And most Yom Tovs, you're allowed to also bring in Yom Tov early. You're allowed to start the Yom Tov early. Not too early, but you can start it early. Approximately 2.5 hours before, or an hour and a quarter before. Shavuot is one of the holidays where we are not allowed to start the holiday early. And that is for a simple reason. It says that Shavuot is supposed to start after the Shiva Shavuot Timimot. You have to have 7 complete weeks. Sylvia, what's the actual pasuk? What is it?
Sheva Shavuot Timimot Tihena.
Yeah, Sheva Shavuot Timimot Tihena. So you should have 7 complete weeks. Timimot, complete. And in order to have complete weeks, you can't have a day that's cut off. And therefore, unfortunately, you cannot really bring in Shavuot before lighting the candles at 8:03, and really you shouldn't daven Mariv until approximately 8:45 or something like that. So it's really not fun, but Shavuot is going to be a late meal Shavuot night. But the flip side of it is, as we'll get to soon, you have to stay up the whole night, so it doesn't hurt to start late. You take a nap during the day, you get up later during the day, and you have to stay up all night, as we'll get to in a moment. So again, the prayer on Shavuot night has to start really late, and that is when the stars come out, because you need 7 complete weeks. Once in the Mariv services, in the prayer services of Friday. Oh, one thing I forgot to say, when we light the Yom Tov candles, make sure you say the appropriate blessings, including the Shehechiyanu blessings. Just want to mention one thing about the Ma'ariv, the evening services of Shavuot. There's a line in the prayer which we say, and we say it about all holidays, Yom Tovs, we say, Mekadesh Yisrael v'hazamanim, which means who sanctifies Israel and the times. Again, who sanctifies Israel and the times. unlike Shabbat, where we just say Mikadesh HaShabbat, God sanctifies the Shabbat. And the reason and differentiation is simple. It's like this. Shabbat, God makes it holy. God made the cycle of 7 days. Shabbat is always there. God makes it holy. It's there regardless. It's always holy. So it's Mikadesh HaShabbat. Shabbat is always there. It's always holy. Yomtov is not naturally holy. It's more dependent on us. It's not a set day of the week. And in fact, back in temple times, the day of Yomtov was decided based upon the high court when they decided the new month started. And so that's why when it comes to the holiday of Yomtov, God says, Mikadesh Yisrael v'hazamanim, who sanctifies Israel and the times. In other words, the only way that the holiday is a holiday is if we as the Jewish people sanctify the day as a holy day. And what this means to us in our own lives, the deeper meaning is that Shabbos is a gift that we received from above. And Yom Tov is something that comes from within, something that really comes deep within us. And you can actually see this very clearly about the holiday of Shavuot. Shavuot is a holiday which is entirely dependent on us. What do I mean? I said earlier that there's the 49 days, the 7 weeks. After the 7 weeks, that's when Shavuot happens, regardless of what day of the month it falls out upon. Why 49 days? Because that's how long it takes to refine ourselves and make us ready to receive the Torah. It says that we have 7 emotions or 7 character traits, and each 7 include the other 7. So 7 times 7 is 49. So it takes us 49 days to get ready to receive the Torah. And after those 49 days, then we're ready to get the Torah. What's interesting is it says if someone crosses the national date line in the middle of the counting of the Omer to wherever he's flying to, he will either celebrate Shavuot a day earlier or a day later than everybody else. So again, don't fly across the national date line. It's not advised. You should fly around the world. Don't cross the quick way. But if you do cross the national date line, it says that you will either have to celebrate it a day quicker or a day earlier than the locale where you're traveling to, because you skipped a day or you lost a day, however it works. So again, what that shows is that Shavuot is, again, in a holiday that really comes from within. It comes from us. When we're ready for the holiday, that's when it comes. So don't say, by the way, oh, I didn't finish cooking my cheesecake, I'm going to make the holiday on Sunday. God dictates 49 days. After the 49 days, that's when the holiday is. But again, the message, the spiritual message here is that Yom Tov is something that really comes from deep within us. And so therefore, it's something we should strive to and work upon. At the Yom Tov meal on Shavuot, the night meal, Thursday night, of course, we make a Kiddush. In the Kiddush, if you didn't like candles, you will make the Shachianu blessing. We don't sing the Shalom Aleichem and Eshes Chayil. That is all for Shabbat. That is not for Yom Tov. And even this year, on Friday night, we don't say Shalom Aleichem and Eshes Chayil out loud. In honor of the Yom Tov, we say it quietly. Also, by the meal, we're going to have 2 loaves of bread. As you know, just like on Shabbat, we have 2 loaves. On Yom Tov, we also have 2 loaves of bread or challah. And having a meal on Yom Tov is important, as we know, that how do you talk to a Jew? Through their stomach. And on Yom Tov, we have to have pleasure, and the only pleasure is physical pleasure. For the body, the only pleasure that the body understands is physical pleasure, and so it's important to have a beautiful, delicious, and wonderful meal. It also says that pleasure is with wine. So make sure you get yourself some good wine. Of course, if you can't handle wine, you can go for some grape juice, and that will be fine. I said I would tell you a joke that's not funny, so I'll go with one over here. So one time in the mess hall in the Navy, the kitchen staff noticed that every single day the plates were coming back empty except for the bread. And so one day he asked one of the sailors, "What's the problem?" So the sailor said, "This bread is too hard." So the chef said, "Listen, if Christopher Columbus had this bread, he would have eaten every crumb." And so the Navy soldier turns back to him and says, "Listen, during the times of Christopher Columbus, the bread was a little bit fresher." Anyways, So it's important to have a fresh challah Friday night. Many people have a custom to bake their own challah. Anyways, now I want to get to the all-night learning, which is a fascinating subject. And I'm going to give you also some resources for you to do it yourself this year. Who was at Chabad of Pinellas County last year for the all-night learning? Was it fun? Was it fun? Last year was quite the discussion, quite the story. Anyways,
that's when Libo told his.
Yeah, Libo started off telling the story about his father, and then we had the booklet where we discussed all the 10 Commandments. And I think in conjunction with discussion and conjunction with everybody being overtired, we discussed the 10 Commandments for many, many hours. It took quite a long time. Anyways, there's a tradition on the night of Shavuot. So this year, last year was the best, I agree. So there's a tradition on Shavuot on Thursday night to stay up the whole night and study Torah. Why? Our sages describe the giving of the Torah like a wedding. And just like before a wedding, you want to look your best and get ready. So too, before we have the marriage with God through the Torah, we want to get ready. And so we stay up all night to beautify ourselves spiritually by studying Torah. Additionally, it says that the year that the Jewish people got the Torah, they slept in. They went to sleep. They didn't wake up early in the morning. And there's a class we gave once explaining why they went to sleep. It was for spiritual reasons, but regardless, they went to sleep. And so to rectify their mistake that they were sleeping when the Torah was ready to be given, we have to stay up every single night. And that's actually why there's a certain book that we read on the night of Shavuot called Tikkun Lel Shavuot. Tikkun could mean an adornment, something that looks nice. So that fits with the first reason. We want to look our best for God, for the giving of the Torah. But also Tikkun, we're rectifying the mistake that our forefathers did. I want to read here an amazing story from the Kabbalists in the 16th century in the city of Safed. And they talk about staying up the whole night at Shavuot. The city of Safed is an amazing town in Israel. Of course, if you ever go to Israel, make sure you make it to the city of Safed. Very spiritual town. It's known as a Kabbalistic town. The Arizal is buried there. Nearby, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is buried in Meron. Many, many great people live there. The Bet Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Karo, Rabbi Shlomo Alkabetz, the Shalal, Shin L'chot HaBrit. He also lived there. Very, very famous Kabbalists lived there all at the same time. And Rabbi Shlomo Alkabetz writes like this. He says, he's a famous Kabbalist, he said, myself and the Bet Yosef and others decided to stay awake the entire night of Shavuot, reading passages of the Torah. And these are actually passages that I'm going to talk about soon. And they said, after Chatzot, after midnight, we reached the part which is the Mishnayot. That's a section of the oral Torah. And then they said, we heard a sweet voice speaking very loudly. And they said, we all fell on our faces out of sheer fright. The voice grew louder and louder until even the neighbors were able to hear it, though they were unable to understand it. The voice, having been created by the Mishnah we had learned, told us of the suffering by the Shekhinah, the divine presence in the exile, and the great impact of our learning this night had, and it silenced all the angels and was piercing all the heavens. It then spoke of the great merit of staying awake all night and the greater effect it would have had if we were doing it with a minyan. The voice encouraged us to continue learning throughout the night, not to waste even a moment. And finally, it told us to stand up and say Baruch Shem out loud, as is said on the holiday of Yom Kippur. And so again, they were hearing a godly voice, the Baskol, heavenly voice. And so they write, we wept a lot from the joy of our experience and the pain of the divine presence in exile. When we met 3 other of the sages in the mikvah, because the custom is after staying up all night, you dip in the mikvah. We related to them what had happened that night, and they were distressed there was not a minyan. So they resolved the next night, the second night of Shavuot, this time we're going to stay up all night and learn with a minyan. So that night, again, the Bet Yosef, the great Kabbalist, and the Rabbi Shlomo Alkabetz, and a minyan of people, they gathered with a minyan. And this time, as they started reading the 10 Commandments, again, it's one of the things we read in the book that we'll show you in a moment, the voice praised the heavenly voice called out again, and it praised what we had done. And it told us of a very spiritual fire that was surrounding our house. And it directed us to say the Baruch Shem, this prayer that we say on Yom Kippur. And as the time of midnight reached, the Shekhinah, the divine presence, spoke to us again and told us that for hundreds of years, no such accomplishment had been attained. And the Shalach HaKadosh writes that it is apparent in the writing that there was much more that we are not allowed to write down. But what we learn from here is that the night of Shavuot is a very special and auspicious time and a wonderful time to connect to God. And once again, the holidays are not just things that happen in the past, but they are reenacted. And so we're getting the giving of the Torah every single year again and again. And so I want to share with you a very special, some things that we can learn on the night of Shavuot. So I'm going to share over here a screen.
I have a question.
Yes.
The Shela Kadosh was the same time then all these Rabbanim?
Was he the same time as all the Rabbanim? What did it say over here?
All these Rabbanim, Rabbi Yosef Karo and Rabbi...
okay, sorry. So Rabbi Shlomo Alkabetz was in that time, and the Shalach HaKadosh wrote it down. I think the Shalach HaKadosh was a little bit afterwards.
The Shela Kadosh was after?
I'm not sure. The truth is, I don't know. I'm guessing. So I shouldn't guess. I should look it up afterwards. Okay, so I want to show you over here. You can see the screen over here that I'm pointing at? Yes, okay, great. So Chabad.org, you can also find it on our website, has a whole section for what to do the night of Shavuot. And they actually have a bunch of amazing classes you could download this year. For example, they have a whole class over here, What is Midrash? It's really an amazing class. Take a deep dive. It's 30 pages. You can print it down. The Midrash are all the stories of the Torah. And some of them sound a little far out there, and you wonder, are they real stories? It sounds a little crazy. So this gives a deep dive, helps you understand about the Midrash. Is the Midrash for real? Midrash is for lovers, Midrash for reality, limited truth, limited mind. So very fascinating class. They have a couple classes here. But the other thing they have here is what's called Tikkun Leil Shavuot. I said earlier, this is something that's supposed to be read on the night of Shavuot. Now, of course, we have it in Hebrew, but Chabad.org this year has it also in English. Really, really special that they printed in English. And what the Tikkun Leil Shavuot, that is what these Kabbalists are reading, pretty much gives you the condensed version of the entire Torah. So what it will do is it'll tell you the first 3 verses and the last 3 verses of every Torah portion. So here you can see in the table of contents all the Torah portions. And it'll stop for some of the special Torah portions like the 10 Commandments or the creation of the world. And then, so here, let's just scroll. So here is, so here, for example, here's in Genesis, it starts off, it has a lot of the verses of Genesis. But in the Parsha of Noah, it's really quick. So it's the first 3 verses and last 3 verses of Noah. So again, it does that with all 53 Torah portions of the Torah. After that, it goes to the other books, to the books of the prophets and the books of the writings. And it stops for a deep dive for the Book of Ruth. Everybody knows Ruth. The Book of Ruth is connected with the Holiday of Shavuot, which we'll get to soon, why that is. So here's different writings. Okay, of course, we have the Book of Psalms in there. It stops for chapter 119. And then it goes on to, so that's all the written Torah. So we had the Tanakh, the Chumash, the Chumash, the prophets and the writings. Then it goes to the Mishnah. And again, it gives you the beginning and end of every tractate of the Mishnah. So Brachot and everything else, all the sections of the Mishnah. So here I'm just going to skip by all the sections of the Mishnah over here, which is the basis of the oral tradition. After the Mishnah, it goes on there. That should be the end of the Mishnah. After the Mishnah, there's a little bit of Kabbalah. It has the Sefer Yetzirah, the first Kabbalistic book, which according to some people was actually written by Adam. It has a little bit of the Zohar in it, a couple pages. And then finally, we have all 613 commandments. So you read through all the 613 commandments as they are in the Torah. And so that is what's called the Tikkun Leil Shavuot. And again, you can find this on Chabad.org, both in Hebrew and in English. So I highly advise if you're up to reading that, it's very, very fascinating. Of course, print it out because we're not supposed to read anything. We're not supposed to read things online on Shavuot. Like I said, they also have a class here, a couple other classes, the divine and the human in the Torah. They have the class, what is the Midrash? They have a class, the Sinai files, which describes the giving of Torah. So a couple classes, a couple cool things. So you're going to want to take a look at that and download what you want before Thursday night so you can keep this beautiful custom. I want to talk for a moment about the Book of Ruth. Why is the Book of Ruth connected to the holiday of Shavuot? Any thoughts, both on Facebook or on Zoom?
Because she converted.
Very good. So one reason is because Ruth converted, and on the holiday of Shavuot, we are all converts to Judaism. We actually became Jews at the giving of the Torah. Any other thoughts about the Book of Ruth?
Because also it has to do with Chag HaAsif, when it was during the Boaz, when he had all the fields, and it was Chag HaAsif, and she had nothing to eat, and Boaz left her the thing to glean. I forgot.
Yeah, very good. So
Yeah.
she gleaned humbly, as someone posted on Facebook. She was gathering. It was the time of the gathering of the wheat, which is, of course, the time of the holiday Shavuot. So one, she was the convert, quintessential convert. You know, she gave up everything. You know, she left her parents' home to stick with her mother-in-law. How many people in general, you know, would leave their parents to go to their mother-in-law? Especially her husband had already died. So she was sticking to her mother-in-law because she really wanted to stick to the Torah. So again, the quintessential convert, it was the holiday of the gathering. And the third reason is, anybody knows?
Chag HaAsif, she was a convert.
Ending the barley, beginning of wheat harvest. Okay, but that was the same as the previous one. King David passed away.
Yeah.
King David passed away on Shavuot, and Ruth is the progenitor of King David. We have just 5 more minutes here, so I'm going to mention, I think we covered most end of times. Yes, the Mashiach, of course. I'm going to mention over here an important, few other important things. On Shavuot morning, of course, after staying up all night, you probably won't want to get up to. Oh, by the way, staying up all night means until the crack of dawn. I'll look up for you the crack of dawn while I start the next topic over here. I'll tell you what time the crack of dawn is. Anyways, we start the morning prayers. The morning prayers are similar to Shabbat, but not exactly. We'll have a guide online how to follow the prayers. But of course, some of the highlights of the prayers is going to be the Hallel, the praise of God. We know, of course, every day is a gift and every breath is a miracle. And we sing God's praises every single day. But on a day when we experience special miracles and special affection from God, it's a special day to arouse within us a love for God. And so God showing us this special love and this gift of giving us the Torah, it awakens within us the desire to sing and praise him and thank him for all the things that he gives us. So it's not that we shouldn't praise God every day, and we should and we do. But on special occasions, we praise God even more, and we sing the Hallel. The Hallel is a section in the book of Psalms, which King David gathered, and all beautiful, beautiful praises of God. Of course, we know that God doesn't need our praise. When we praise God, it's because we need to praise God. It's more for us. We remind ourselves, and we need to remind ourselves how we have to thank God. And you know what? When we thank God in the proper way, God will reciprocate in kind and give us gladness and joy, and give us blessings and more reasons to thank him. Another thing that's said on the holiday of Shavuot is called Akdamot. Akdamot is a prayer written in Aramaic. It begins with the praise of God's greatness, and it goes on to describe all the angels that God created, and it proclaims our allegiance to God, and it concludes with the miraculous description of the coming of the Messiah. It was written by a rabbi called Rabbi Meir Yitzchak of Orleans, not New Orleans, but Orleans, who lived in the 11th century. And it can be found in the Siddur. Chabad doesn't say it out loud. Some people do say it quietly, some don't, but in many communities, it's a highlight of the holiday of Shavuot. But of course, we know the real highlight of the holiday of Shavuot is the 10 Commandments. Although God gave us the Torah, specifically, he gave us the 10 Commandments at the giving of Mount Sinai. We spoke last class why specifically those 10. But nevertheless, when we hear the 10 Commandments, we should look as if we are hearing the 10 Commandments right now. It's an auspicious moment. It's a moment to really feel and live like we are at the giving of the Torah. And if you are, if there's a shul open and you get to a minyan this year, of course, do that. If not, read the Chumash at home, gather around your family, read the 10 Commandments, read that section, and feel like you're literally standing there at Mount Sinai, and allow that energy to flow through you, allow it to uplift you. Many years I get the chills, hearing the 10 Commandments, feeling it, imagining what it's like. So again, make it feel special. Another highlight of every holiday is the blessing of the Kohanim. We do know there will be Kohanim blessing Jewish people throughout the world. So even if you don't get to a synagogue, we know the Kohanim are blessing us nonetheless. I did want to say the time you can go to sleep if you stay up all night is oh my gosh. Let me find if there's an earlier time. That doesn't sound good. Florida is really bad. Florida is really bad for this. Other places in the world, 2, 3 o'clock, it's the crack of dawn. Florida, the earliest time I could find is 4:15 a.m. That's not bad, actually. After that, the next earliest is 5:39, but I'll go with the 4:15 a.m. That's my, I'll go with that. Anyways, last custom I wanted to discuss about on Shavuot is dairy dishes. We eat a lot of dairy dishes on Shavuot. Anybody knows the reason why or reasons why? Please share with us. I'm all ears. Anybody has any thoughts why we eat dairy on Shavuot? I see someone talking, but if you're on mute, I can't hear you. You got to unmute yourself. I can unmute you. Okay, go for it. Oh, you have to unmute yourself.
I see. Thank you. We got the laws for eating meat and milk that how we should do that with first time that we got that.
Okay. Yeah, good point. All right, after I discuss why we eat dairy, then I'll discuss the dairy and then the meat. So any thoughts on why we eat dairy, Shavuot?
Yes, I have other thoughts too. That it's when we every year we receive the Torah anew, and when we're receiving the commandments anew, it's like we're babies, spiritual babies, and we are each year continuing in our upward journey spiritually.
Very good, very good. And just as a baby starts up with milk, so that's how we start. Any other thoughts?
Because the Torah is compared to milk, is sweet, has a sweetness, the sweetness of the milk.
Vash uchalav tachas leshonecha. Milk and honey under your tongue. Yes, so it's the sweetness of the milk. Any other reasons anybody knows?
Because we didn't have the dinim of basar v'chalav.
Very good, yes. Is that what Ahava you're trying to say? Oh, I see. Yes, okay. One reason is that when the Torah, before the Torah was given, we didn't have any of the laws of meat and milk. So all their dishes were not kosher because told them they weren't keeping kosher. Now that they suddenly have to keep kosher, now the only thing the only thing they were able to eat was dairy. Dairy, you don't need to have a pot, you don't need to cook it, just take some milk, whatever. So therefore, they had dairy and no meat. Others say that we have both dairy and meat, and that reminds us of the 2 loaf breads that were offered on the in the temple on this day. All right, there's other interesting reasons. It says that white corresponds to the Kabbalistic chesed, kindness, And so, because the color white is kindness, and so the Torah was a great kindness that was given to us. Others say Mount Sinai is like a cheesecake. I like that one. My favorite reason why we eat dairy on Shavuot is because it tastes good. But either way, of course, one should note that if you eat the dairy, you still have to eat a meat meal. So the best thing is you eat your dairy meal. If you're Chabad, you wait an hour and then you eat your meat meal, at least an hour. Otherwise, you can rinse your mouth, wash out your mouth, eat something in between, and then go straight on to your meat meal, of course, with different dishes. Another thing, one more fascinating thing about dairy is when Moses came to heaven and he wanted to get the Torah, the angels didn't want to give it. So he told them, we could keep the Torah better than you. He said, how do I know? When you went to Abraham's house and he gave you the tongue and the milk, you ate it. Look, you ate meat and milk. We would never do that. So to show that we are better than the angels and we deserve the Torah, we're going to eat dairy. And then, a little bit later, we're going to eat the meat. We're not going to eat it together. Just a final inspirational note about Shavuot. Of course, another thing we do on Shavuot, on the second day, this year Shabbat, is to say the Yizkor prayer. If you're coming to pick up your Shavuot to-go bags, make sure you request a Yizkor booklet to borrow. Of course, you can download it online, but we have the full version that we do in the synagogue. And of course, if you want to light a Yizkor candle, you have to light one first Thursday night and then light another one Friday night from the Thursday night candle. One final, and Yizkor, if you want to know how to do Yizkor, we discussed before Passover. You can look at our classes from then. One final note about Shavuot, and that is that Shavuot was called Chag HaBikurim, the holiday of the fruits. And in ancient times, the farmers would, of course, take from their orchards and the first of their fruits, and they would come to the temple. And there'd be so many farmers and so many people coming there. It was a scene. And it's just a lesson in gratefulness. Bikurim is a lesson in gratefulness. And so now we're in a difficult period. It's a tough period. We've gone through a lot. Unfortunately, many of us have lost people that we know of. And we just have to remember to always to be grateful for the things that we have, be grateful for the prosperity and whatever it is that we have in life, just remember to be grateful. And I think that's one of those things about Shavuot, is to remind us to be grateful, to verbalize our gratitude, and be joyous, be happy. And hopefully if we're joyous and happy, God will look at us in kind and say, you're happy despite the trouble I've given you. I might as well, stop with the plague, because it's not making you sad. Might as well give you goodness. Might as well give you happiness. And he will give us the ultimate happiness, the coming of the Mashiach. May it be speedily in our days. Amen. Ken Yehi Ratzon. Any questions? No? No questions. All right. So I will turn off Facebook. And if anybody on Zoom has any questions, I'll be here. And don't forget to sign up for my podcast. Search the Think Jewish podcast in whichever podcast thing you listen to. And also don't forget, look out for our emails. We'll have the resources for Shavuot. And also don't forget to come by to pick up your Shavuot to go package, which will have this year a special guide to doing Shavuot at home yourself.